Manuel Quezon was the first president of all of modern-day Philippines. He established a national language. He pushed to extend voting rights to women. But he had to flee when Japan invaded his country during World War II in 1941. And in exile in the United States, he got tuberculosis. And he came here to the Adirondacks for treatment. He died in Saranac Lake. And to this day, there's a deep bond between Saranac Lake and the Philippines. We visit a celebration of that connection on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Kenny Drugs, now offering a new mobile app to help patients better manage prescriptions for themselves and their family. More at kennydrugs.com. And Clarkson University, offering over 95 programs of study with campuses in the Hudson Valley, Central, and Northern New York. More at clarkson.edu.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Friday, August 9th. First up, we're in the middle of a heavy rain event, the aftermath of Tropical Storm Debbie. There's a flood watch for the whole North Country, some more urgent flood warnings. Those are changing by the hour. But state officials want you to be aware wherever you are. Jackie Bray is the Commissioner of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, and she joined me to talk about what to do as the rain continues to fall.
I think there are three things that New Yorkers need to do all day during this storm. Number one is to stay alert. Keep your radio on. Keep your television on. Make sure that your cell phone is set to receive emergency alerts. You don't want to go out without knowing what you're going out into today. It's going to be an ugly day. It's going to last through the night, so stay alert. Number two, have a plan. It is important now to know if you get a flash flood warning, where are you going, right? For me, in my home, I'd go out my back door and right behind me is a hill, and I'd go up that hill. I don't want to go out my front door because I would be basically walking into the creek. And so I think that it's important to have some situational awareness and to have a plan, and then be prepared. Are there fresh batteries in your flashlight? Set your fridge and your freezer a couple degrees cooler than usual in case you lose power. Have you cleared out your gutters? Things like that all help to keep us safe.
Are we most concerned about the rain, or is there also concern about heavy winds?
We're really most concerned about the rain. Along our Pennsylvania border, so well south of the North Country, we might see destructive winds, and we're watching that closely. But for the North Country, we're most concerned about the heavy rains. Now, the ground is already wet. Folks that live there know that. We've had about 150 to 200% of what we usually see by way of rain over the last several months in the North Country. And so we might see power outages that are less caused by wind, but more caused by the saturation of the ground and those poles coming down and coming over because of that saturation. But this is going to be a water threat, not a wind threat for the North Country.
That's Jackie Bray, Commissioner of New York's Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. We have the latest on the storm on our website, ncpr.org, and we're also following it on Instagram and Facebook. So 80 years after Filipino President Manuel Quezon came to Saranac Lake for tuberculosis treatment, there's a celebration of his legacy. David Escobar was there and has a story.
Inside Harrietstown Town Hall Auditorium, several hundred people are clapping along to a traditional Filipino dance performance from the Golden Maidens. The Golden Maidens are a group of women who traveled to Saranac Lake from Montreal to join the village's celebration of President Quezon History Day. Outside, the street is lined with vendors selling Filipino food staples like sticky rice, adobo, and lumpia. And on a hot summer day, a cold dessert is a must. That's a vendor whipping up a cup of halo-halo, or mix-mix in Tagalog. It's a combination of shaved ice, sweet milk, and fruit gelatin. It's what brought Grace St. Pierre and her friends all the way from Ticonderoga.
Well, this is the first time that we've been here, and then we just want to enjoy the Filipino here. Because they said they have a lot of Filipino food, and there's lots of Filipino.
Today's celebration of former Philippine President Manuel Quezon's time in the Adirondacks has been 5 years in the making.
I think going into this, we recognized that we knew very little.
Amy Catania is executive director of Historic Saranac Lake. She says her team started investigating Quezon's relationship with the village in 2019. Quezon was the first democratically elected president of the Philippines. After he contracted tuberculosis during World War II, he came to the Adirondacks to recover alongside other patients. There was a booming healthcare economy in Saranac Lake 80 years ago, a time period Catania says can be difficult to reconstruct.
People were thinking about the war. People were thinking about their sons and daughters overseas. The things that happened during that time here often weren't very well documented.
So Catania enlisted the help of historians and Filipino community members to get to the bottom of Quezon's story. One of those community members is Priscilla Magdamo Abraham. She lived in the Philippines as a child, and on the day of Quezon's fleeing into exile, she remembers hearing a boat leaving her town.
We didn't know the full story. I didn't know the full story, and we just knew as a kid, that I heard that thing. It was so loud.
What she heard was Quezon leaving her town's harbor on a patrol torpedo boat, a tidbit she discovered from Historic Saranac Lake's research. Magdamo Abraham might have been an eyewitness to the Filipino president, but Senen Mangalile says many Filipinos share a similar kinship to Quezon. Mangalile is the Philippine Consul General of New York who came to Saranac Lake for the celebration.
Everyone who is in grade school in the Philippines is taught Philippine history. And so President Quezon occupies a huge chapter in that history because of what he did to prepare the country for independence.
Sol Kapunan heads the nonprofit Kalayayan 1521 Council in Albany that works to promote Filipino culture. He says he sees today's event as a bridge being built between the Adirondacks and the Philippines.
I have seen people come together, and that is the goal that I wanted to see. People converging, people coming together for a purpose. And at the same time, of course, we are building friendship.
Nikeo Tamasho traveled to the festival with her dance group from New York City, but grew up in the Tri-Lakes region. They say today's festival helped them see a different side of their hometown.
Having grown up here in Saranac Lake, there are no Filipinos. It was me, my mom, and maybe one other person. So it's interesting in that this was a place where I felt like I was always adapting, or if I didn't adapt, I wouldn't fit in. And I didn't have the easiest time growing up here. So it's so beautiful that people are coming together in my hometown around community and around something that's so central to who I am, and of course to every other Filipino in attendance here, so central in our core and the way that we're wired to move about the world.
Event organizers say President Quezon's enduring message of unity isn't just about bringing Filipinos together. Tiffany Rhea Fisher, who heads the Adirondack Diversity Initiative, says events like Quezon Day are important for all Adirondackers.
I think people don't think there are other people here other than white Americans, and it's just not true. There's been a history from jump of lots of different cultures putting their footprint and their fingerprints all over this place that are still here.
President Quezon Day only lasts through the evening, but Historic Saranac Lake will keep educating the public about Quezon's legacy in Saranac Lake. And director Amy Catania says that history is important for the village.
It's a hard time to be an immigrant in this country. I think it's just, it hopefully means something to have a small community way up high in the mountains kind of open our arms and say, hey, we welcome you here.
Catania says the village should keep exploring ways to teach the public about diverse communities in the Adirondacks. And on President Quezon Day, that means joining in on the fun. I'm David Escobar, North Country Public Radio in Saranac Lake.
This reporting is a collaboration of North Country Public Radio and the Adirondack Explorer, with funding from Report for America. We're keeping an eye on potential flooding tonight and tomorrow. Check our Instagram and Facebook accounts for the latest and at ncpr.org. Music today by Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario, and Muskox of Ottawa. Have a great weekend. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.